uncertainty bothers me quite a bit. And the funny thing about life is that it's very uncertain. I mean, life isn't scary, but social life can be. Not many people know this about me, but there was for a period of time where I actually suffered from social anxiety. I would go up to a person and just freeze. I wouldn't be able to form words or sentences. But I don't like this idea of me not being in control of my own destiny, of leaving it to chance or fate. I remember walking up and down Orchard Road on weekends, on Sundays with a friend, where I would, at her cue, she would just tap me on the shoulder, and I would go up to random women and say hi and start a conversation. I remember the first time I did it, I went there and my legs just froze. I struggled to form the words. I thought you were really cute, and I wanted to say hi, and then my tongue started tripping over itself. Fear is a physical emotion. You can feel your heart pumping, your stomach churning. It's a biological response. I remember for half an hour after that first time, my legs were jelly. And yet, as I was prompted to do it, as I kept embarking on this particular project, it got easier over time. This was 10% of my entire week, a couple of hours on a Sunday. And yet it had such explosive rewards. I could eventually go up to a person, go up to a girl, look into her eyes, form a connection. I could feel, could love. Little did I know that this would be the underpinnings of a larger mathematical perspective on uncertainty and how nature deals with the unknown. The quantitative analyst turned academic Nicholas Taleb devised a certain trading strategy. In his portfolio, 90% of the assets would be something extremely safe, like money, something extremely boring. But the 10% were crazy, risky options. Even if he lost all 10% of that risky trade, crazy options, he would still have 90% of his money left. But if he won, if whatever he had bet on had come true, upsides were explosive. Enough to outweigh the entire value of his portfolio. How would this connect to math? This barbell method, as I described it, is the idea that life is not designed for moderation. That we live on the extremes, that 90% of the time we are to be cautious and paranoid, and the other 10% to be extremely aggressive. I put it up here mathematically to show you what something like that would look like. How my Sundays eventually turned out. Maybe the first bit, me going up to someone and the girl says, no, sorry, don't have my time. Next bit, the same thing. Move on and on and on, until I see a little bit dipping at the bottom. That's when you talk to a girl for half an hour and then she tells you she's a boyfriend at the end of it. And that's where you put the flaw. They curve that line that says that, you know what, maybe if it's going nowhere after 15 minutes, I should walk away. But then you try it, and try it, and try it, and then you hit it. The upside, maybe you form a connection with someone else. All by small bets. Just walking down the street and talking to random people. We can put it this way. This is how the most of us live our lives. In the middle ground of uncertainty. A good way of looking at it is, if you're a tall guy, the chances of you maybe hooking up is pretty high. There's low uncertainty. You're more or less assured of it. But if you're like a 3 foot tall midget, it's very uncertain. You might not get an outcome. But that's the question lies then, how do we know where we are? Are we living a low uncertainty life or a high uncertainty life? Where are we blessed by fate, or are we just unlucky? And most of us go about our lives not realizing that how risk influences us in every aspect of our life. But yet, if we are 90% paranoid and 10% aggressive, our risk profile becomes something like this. The one on the left is a man who does not know how uncertain his life is. This is a profile of things like planes taking off. You never hear about planes reaching a destination earlier than expected, but they always reach later, 5 hours later, 10 hours later. But it never seems to tell. You never hear the pilot say, "Hey guys, we've arrived 1 hour ahead of schedule. Thank you, we hope you had a safe flight." But then what about the guy on the left? The man who has barbelled himself. His life is safe. But then, when he hits it big, it's astronomical. This principle governs everything from finance to social life to even knowledge and how we live our lives. In nature, when you look at birds, certain sets of monogamous birds, researchers have discovered that 90% of them are monogamous, with the accountant type of bird, this fella. A nice, safe man. But 10% of the time, they're promiscuous with these kinds of birds, the rock star. Nature adopts a strategy of 90% accountant, 10% rock star. All for what? To maximize the upside and to downplay the risk. Nature informs us time and time again that we are to take risk aggressively 10% of the time, and for 90% of the time, play it cool. To run and then walk, but not do the middle ground, not jog. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.